Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian Hüttemann. With our article, my co-authors and I try to address the following problem, which is called information overload. This resembles a picture of my office when I'm working on a systematic literature review. The problem is that there are just too many papers available, distributed across many different databases. In fact, millions of papers get published year by year, so that with each passing day, the problem actually gets worse. As the knowledge is hidden in documents, we as researchers have to sit down, trying to find related and interesting articles and screen hundreds of abstracts on the way. As a result, we find limited sample sizes in literature reviews and also only get a static view of a small section of literature out there. It's actually not really possible to analyze the whole population. Why can't we do this? Well, one of the reasons is that the current generation of tools and technologies have a number of limitations. For example, there are limitations in academic search engines, such as Google Scholar, Semantic Scholar, Web of Science, or Scopus. These engines typically have only limited filters. That means you can filter for year, for authors, sometimes for journals, but it's not possible to filter for domain-specific aspects, such as topics, theories, or research methods. Also, these search engines have an intransparent knowledge base, so we don't know what journals are indexed there, and also we don't know how the algorithms work in detail. As a result, we get a high recall but a low precision. That means after entering a search query, we get hundreds or even thousands of results, but we have to manually screen those in order to check what's really relevant to us. There are also limitations in generative AI-based tools. For example, ChatGPT from OpenAI, SciSpace, Perplexity, Elicit, and Cite, just to name a few. So with these models, we typically have an unknown knowledge base. So as a user, we don't really know what these models were trained on, so what the training data looked like. Also, these models, they are optimized for text generation and summarization, but not necessarily for searching for information. And these models tend to hallucinate information and therefore cannot provide reliable information. All right, so the main idea in our paper is the following. We perform ontological annotation. That means we extract domain-specific terminology from the text of research articles. As a second point, we perform sentence classification. That means we classify the context of these extracted terms and phrases. And this enables us to perform knowledge synthesis. That means an ontology-based analysis of research articles. In our paper, we present this approach in more detail. So we present a process model, a data model, and an operations model that explain in detail how this can be achieved. But for now, I just want to point out some of the most important steps in this whole approach. And one ingredient that we need is an ontology. In our paper, we use the information systems ontology. And this ontology can be imagined as a huge table of contents for the information systems discipline. So for example, in chapter 1, we might find all the topics that are relevant. In chapter 2, we might find all the theories. In chapter 3, we might find all research methods and so on. To give you a first impression of how this looks like, this is just a very small snippet of this ontology showing some of the research methods. The complete ontology contains, I think, around 4,000 key terms and phrases with hundreds of thousands of synonyms, just to give you an idea of the dimension of this ontology. But for now, let's just have a quick look at the research methods. So we use all these terms and search for all these terms with computational methods in the text of research articles. Now let's say we have one research article and we find the term experiment. Through this hierarchical structure of the ontology, we can directly infer that an experiment is a quantitative method, which is a data collection method, which is a research method. Now imagine using this approach for thousands of articles. That means we have a bunch of articles, a really high stack. We analyze this with computational methods. We search for all these ontological key terms. And through this hierarchical structure, we can easily get distributions of research methods, of topics, and so on. To give you an example of how this looks like, in a way, it's similar as using a highlighter or a text marker on a piece of text. So here's just one example snippet of an abstract, and it reads, in this paper, we used a survey. And through the hierarchical structure, we know survey is a data collection method, which is a research method. With 234 senior executives, we know that those are participants in an investment bank, which relates to a sector or an industry, to test youth out, which is a theory, of course. So in our approach, we also outline that it is not enough to simply extract these terms and phrases. We also need to understand the context. Let's have a look at some example sentences. A survey can be used to address such research questions. So we immediately know that survey is an ontological key term, but from this sentence, this sounds more like background information or general information about a specific term. So we cannot use the term as a semantic metadata point. The next sentence, Smith et al. 2020 performed a survey, so this rather points to related work. It also doesn't describe a focal article. We are only interested in key terms that we find in sentences that really describe a focal article. For example, a sentence like this one. In this paper, we conducted a survey. So from this sentence, we can infer that it really describes an article. And we use a large language model that we train specifically for the task of identifying such sentences. And in our framework, we explain how we get the knowledge out of these sentences. All right, what can we do with this? So as I said, this framework consists of a process model, a data model, and an operations model. And based on the framework, we can design systems that allow for performing computational literature reviews of large collections of articles. For example, this figure shows the top 10 theories, topics, and research methods across more than 6,000 articles from the ICIS conference. With traditional methods of manually reviewing the literature, such an overview is prohibitively expensive in terms of manual effort required. With our framework, it can be derived in minutes. Another example is an overview of the top 10 theories in ICIS articles by article count and year. So this shows that we combine information to perform a multidimensional analysis of research articles. Okay, so we also developed a software prototype that is available online. You will find the link in our paper, and I just want to do a quick demo with you. This is our prototype. We used the knowledge synthesis framework to perform an analysis of around 45,000 articles in major outlets of the IS discipline. The link to the prototype can be found in our paper and here in the address bar of the browser. Our prototype consists of multiple showcases. These showcases can be accessed via the navigation on the left-hand side. Let's start with the ontology structure. This page shows the terms and phrases contained in the information systems ontology. We search for all of these terms in the texts of the analyzed research articles. Let's have a look at how this works in more detail. Here we demonstrate how the automated annotation works. It is possible to copy and paste any text, and the underlying model will highlight terms, phrases, and synonyms. We can test this here with this example sentence by clicking on process text, and we can see that the underlying model will identify all ontological key terms contained in this sentence. Okay, let's go to key terms and trend analysis. At the top of the page, we find filters for selecting a time frame and outlets. When I adjust any of the filters, the visuals will update immediately. I'm going to select ICIS from the journal dropdown, and we see that we have 6,500 articles in our database, from which we extracted over 300,000 ontological key terms. When we scroll down a little bit, we find the top key terms and trend analysis. On the left-hand side, we see the top 25 research methods by count of articles, and on the right-hand side, we see the top 10 research methods by year. I can adjust this view for example, to topics and theories. I'm just clicking here on theories, and you see that the different visuals will adjust to articles by theories and articles by theory and year. When I select a different time frame from the filters at the top of the page, all the visuals will adjust accordingly. Okay, let's go to research gap analysis. Here we can see the same initial filters for time frame and outlet. When we scroll down a bit, we see a heat map that shows topics on the x-axis and research methods on the y-axis. The cells indicate the co-occurrence of concepts. In our case, the number of articles that used a specific method and analyzed a specific topic. We can zoom in a bit more and analyze the top 50 most frequently used methods and topics. Therefore, we have to select top 50 in this select box, and the matrix will update. We can immediately see many bright and some dark spots. For example, survey and ISUs that appeared together in 3,404 articles. We could now change the y-axis to show the top 50 theories to get some additional insights. This will bring up some dark spots with technology acceptance model, but also many light spots where we did not find a co-occurrence of related concepts. This does not mean that every potential gap is worth researching, but it provides a comprehensive overview of what was being researched in major outlets of the IS discipline. With that, we reached the end of the presentation. We are looking forward to some interesting discussions at the ICIS conference, and we wish you lots of fun and insights reading our paper and exploring our prototype. Thank you and goodbye.